Hey, what's up, YouTube? How you doing? Hey, today is a special holiday in the sense of today is June 19th, and we celebrate Juneteenth, and that's the reason why I'm wearing this shirt in celebration of June 19th, Juneteenth. And so, happy Juneteenth to everybody. And for those of you who are not familiar with Juneteenth, if you're familiar with Black history, those of us who are in America, you know, our ancestors were captured in our home motherland on the continent of Africa, and we were brought here to the United States as slaves. And so over 400 years ago, there was a slave trade, and our ancestors were brought here as slaves. And so fast forward up to President Lincoln at the time, he signed an emancipation that all slaves were free. But unfortunately, every state, the slaves weren't all free at the same time. But the state of Texas, the slaves in the state of Texas was the last ones to find out that they were free and that Lincoln had signed an Emancipation Proclamation. So that happened on June 19th, 1865. And so that's kind of like a brief little comment on what Juneteenth is about and why we celebrate Juneteenth. From what I understand, what I read, the state of Texas was the first one to actually make it a holiday. And then over time, other states joined in. But from what I understand, in 2021, it became a national holiday. And so today, we celebrate Juneteenth. So hey, happy Juneteenth. Today, I wanna talk about young men, as far as, you know, we're at a time where, you know, prom season is come and gone, graduate seasons come and gone. Men have just graduated out of high school, they're entering into college, and so they're in a position right now where they're trying to figure their life out. They're trying to figure out what direction they're going, what it's going to be all about. And so I would like to offer some advice. I understand there are different kind of young guys, you know, and the younger generation is different. There are young guys who really don't want you to tell them about, you know, like me, when I was young, I felt like, hey, don't tell me, I got this. But it's good to take advice from the OGs, the older guys, you know, because we've been there, we've done that, we made a lot of mistakes, we've observed other people and their mistakes, and so we kind of got an idea of how to come along to make your life successful. And so I would like to share some of those. So I'm talking to guys not who don't listen to older folks or who won't follow attention, but there are some guys out there who actually will listen and who will actually take your advice. And as a result, their life really is very successful. And I've seen some young men like that. And so those are the men that I'm going to be talking to today. So these young men, I'm going to encourage you. You know, we just, like I said, we just come through the prom season, and I've seen some beautiful couples dressed up. You know, beautiful couples dressed up in the tux and dressed up in the gowns, and they look good together. You know, but I'm talking to the young guys who's willing to listen, and I'm gonna encourage you to kind of give you a brief sense of how to proceed forward and have a successful life. First of all, coming out of high school or going into college, or some of you are in college and you're graduating from college and you enter into the job world, the job market. And so my first advice is going to be, do your research, check out what kind of occupation you want to get into. And then some of you are educated in a particular field, but when you get your job, you want to look for a good job that's pays more than, of course, living wage. You know, if you're coming out of high school, you want to make sure, and even if you're coming out of college, you want to make sure that you're paying a job, you're getting a job that pays more than a living wage. What's a living wage? Living wage, at least in the Midwest, in this part of the country, is about $15 an hour. And that's good, but you want to do more than just pay your rent and pay your car note and pay your expenses, because you don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. You know, a lot of guys, they pay for their expenses, and then they're waiting for the next paycheck to pay everything. You want to be in a position where not only you pay your bills, but you got a little bit left over, because you want to save some. So when you find a job that's paying a little more than living wage. Also, find a job that has good insurance. Now, as a young guy, you might feel like, hey, I don't need insurance right now. I'm a young guy. You know, I'm not going to be going to the hospital, but you never know. Insurance is good to have, because you don't know if you're going to be in a car accident or somebody going to do, you know, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you're going to be needing to go to the hospital and get medical attention. So you want a job that has good insurance. Another thing, you want to make sure you have a job that has a good 401k plan or a good pension plan. 401k is good because as a young guy, particularly if you young 21-year-old, you participate in a 401k plan, it's really for your retirement. And as a young guy, you might not feel like I need to do this, you know, but I advise you to get into 401k plans, because number one, it comes out of your check, so you don't see the money in the first place. And every month over time, your 401k will give you a statement, so you'll get a sneak peek of what you got in there. But 401k plan is great, because if you participate in a 401k plan at a young age like that, by the time you get 65 and get ready to retire, you'll probably have about $1 million saved up, over time. And 401k is investing in various stock markets and whatever. And then in that type of savings, compound interest kicks in. And so you want to participate, because when you get my age, you want to enjoy your life. And if you participate in it, you're going to be glad you did. And so I encourage you, if you find a job and you research a job, research the benefits that job offer. You want to look for one with insurance, and you want to look for one that has some kind of 401k or some kind of a pension plan. Now, one big thing that I want to point out that I found out, observing life, is the 401k money is yours. It's all yours. You contribute to it, and the company contributes a percentage to it. And that's another thing you want to find out too, when you in an interview or when you're researching a job. Find out how much percentage does a company kicks in the 401k plan. Another thing is a pension. The company owns a pension, and some pension is taken out of your check, and then the company kick in. But the disadvantage of pension I found out over a lifetime is, if the company that you work for eventually sometime down the line go bankrupt and they run out of money, then the bankrupt judge is going to force the companies to take the pension money and pay whatever bills they have. So then the employees lose their pension money. But a 401k plan, that's yours. Company don't own the 401k plan. So even though a company may go bankrupt, you still have your 401k plan. Then one thing I've noticed, I've been in a situation where I've been in such an emergency where I need to borrow from my 401k, which I was allowed to do, and I paid it back. You pay it back with about 1%, 3% interest, and that comes out of your check. But that's not something you want to do often. Only time you do something like that is extreme emergency. So 401k is really important. Another thing you want to do is you want to open up a good banking account. You got to have a banking account. You want to open, and I recommend you open a checking account, of course, and you want a savings account. But I recommend that you open 2 savings accounts, and the 2 savings account, one savings account is at the same banking institution that your checking account is, and I advise that you open a second savings account at a different banking institution. The second savings account is for emergency expenses. You might run into a serious emergency where it's going to cost some money to take care of things. Your car break down, it costs $1,000 to get fixed. Well, that's where the emergency fund. That way you don't touch your regular savings, and you don't mess with your money, your bill money, which you get out of your check. So get a good checking account, a good savings account in one institution, and then get a second savings account at another banking institution. That's my advice. Also, you want to get a vehicle. It don't have to be brand new. You ain't got to try to impress nobody, because right now you're trying to get on your foot. You're trying to get a good base, a good foundation in life. So you don't have to try to impress nobody at a young age. In time, you're going to make some money and you'll be able to upgrade and get a real nice vehicle. People going to be impressed with it, but that shouldn't be your motivation for even getting a nice vehicle. You just want something to get you back and forth to work, back and forth to see your family, back and forth to, for your entertainment, whatever you like to do on your days off. And so you want a good, solid, dependable vehicle. So, and you want that vehicle in your name. You want to get the vehicle in your name. And also you want your auto insurance. You want auto insurance. You want to make sure your vehicle's insured. Make sure that and that's another reason why you want to get a job that pays more than minimum wage. Not only be able to afford, all of your expense, but you want to make sure you get a good insurance for your vehicle. Another thing, you need your own place. You need your own apartment. And you need that apartment to be in your name, not a girlfriend's name. You don't need to be staying at a girl's apartment. That's not solid. Why? Because if you're in a relationship and that relationship goes sour, now you're out of a place to stay. I've seen so many guys who get kicks out of their girlfriend's house and they got their clothes sitting all out on the sidewalk and they trying to figure out where they need to go stay. So they're on the phone trying to find a place to sleep until they can get back on their feet. You want to get your own apartment, your own place, so that you can be independent on your own. So I advise you to get your own place. Then once you're able to manage your living lifestyle, and that's what I call living a foundation for your life. Once you get your lifestyle on good footing, then this is in my opinion, a lot of guys, they're into the girls, so they want to get the girlfriend or whatever. But I advise you get solid. All those things I mentioned above, get solid first. Then once you get all those things established, then you can pursue your goal as finding a nice girl, a nice friend, a nice person to be with, and see it and make sure she's solid. You make sure she got goals. Both of you should be moving on the same page. You should be going the same directions. You should have the same dream, and find somebody that's complement what you're trying to do, and you complement what she's trying to do. Because what she don't have, you gonna have, and what you don't have, she gonna have, and together you guys make a great couple, become a power couple, and you can do some great things in life. Also, once you get speaking of job situation, I'm gonna get back on the job. So when you get a job, I'm reading from my outlines. I got a little outline here. When you get on your job, you're gonna be in a situation. You'll probably, whatever job you're in, you're gonna be in training for a period of time. And in training, you kind of want to make sure that you get it down. Now, I'm the kind of person, I'm real slow in learning something, but once I get it, I got it. So you in training, so and you'll probably, being a new guy, you'll probably be doing jobs that other guys don't want to do, or they did when they was new hire. When you're new hire, you'll probably get grunt work, particularly if you go into manufacturing. You'll probably get into some jobs that other guys don't want to do, or they did when they were a new hire, but since they got a little seniority, they was able to get a better job. But you want to get the job, you want to learn the job, you become very good at the job, and you want to become so good at it until you become very dependable and you develop a reputation of being solid. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to compete with nobody else when you're doing your job. You want to compete with yourself. When I was on the job, I tried my best to be better at my job today than I was yesterday. And that was what I did. Be better at it today than you was yesterday. I wasn't trying to compete with nobody else. I was trying to compete with myself. And so that's what I advise you to do. Okay, and once you master your job, once you get it down, and that reminds me, I was working in the plant, and my job was to learn the computer because I was controlling these big giant robots. The robot did the building, all I did was at the screen controlling robot. And I'm a kind of guy, I'm not that computer savvy. At least I don't think of myself as computer savvy. But it took me a month to learn the computer. And most of the young guys, when I talk to them, I say, hey, when you was new at this, how long did it take you to learn it? They say about 2 weeks. I say, younger guys, you guys, when you were born, computers existed. When I was born, computers didn't exist. So for me, it took a minute. But once I got it, I got it. So when you learn, once you master the job, once you get it down, these are the things you want to become you want to develop a reputation. You want to develop a reputation being very dependable, where everybody can depend on you. And a lot of guys ain't like that. But you want to be dependable and you want to be real consistent. And once you develop that type, then a lot of doors are open for you on the job. And I'm talking manufacturer at this point. So I'll read my outline here again. So you want to become so good at your job until if you get promoted or you get moved to another department or you do something different, when you leave that job, you leave a big plug, a big vacuum in that job. So much so, it takes about 2 guys to do what you did. If you're on an assembly line, you're moving at a certain pace, and you become so good at it, and to everybody who comes after you are so used to getting the next part at the pace that you created, until when you leave, the next guy can't create that pace. So you create a vacuum. Another thing I wanted to talk about, there are union jobs, there are jobs that you work under contract, and there are jobs you don't work under contract. When I work in a manufacturing, there's 3 industries that I worked in my whole job career. First was hospitality. I worked hotels and I got into management. Then I worked security. I worked a lot of security positions. I got trained as an armed security, and I did some bodyguard work, a personal security job. Then I got into auto manufacturing, and that was the 3 major industries. But there are contract jobs and they're not when I worked in a hotel, it was not a contract job, although I did work at hotels that had a union, but I worked in a lot of hotels that did not. And so those jobs, you have opportunities to negotiate your salary and negotiate your perks and negotiate your benefits. Like one job I had, I took a management job at a hotel, so I got a chance not only to negotiate my salary, I negotiate my benefits. Along with my job, the job had its own cleaning plant. So at that time, as a management, you wore suits. They don't do that today, I don't think, but you wore suits and ties. So I negotiated to have all my suits clean. And I also negotiated to have my clothes in the laundry. So I never had to go to the laundry. I just brought my basket of clothes to the hotel and they cleaned my clothes, folded, and it was ready when I left. And that was negotiating my salary. And you can also negotiate your lunches. The hotel had restaurants, and so you can have you can eat free, but it's all included in your salary. So those are things that you can do as a non-contract position. But in manufacturing, which is different, it's all under contract. So everybody gets paid exactly the same. Everybody benefits exactly the same. And the only time it changes is when contract is expiring and it's time for your union leadership to renegotiate your next raise, your next contract, your next, job security and all of that. And so that's the difference between a contract job and a non-contract job. But anyway, I'm happy to share some insights and some advice for younger guys who's willing to listen, who's willing to take advice. Of course, as an OG, I'm not trying to tell you what to do and how to live your life and you should do this and this. Hey, these are things to think about. These are things for you to jot down, make notes, and then when you do your research on what your job you're gonna do, this is what I'm advising you to do. So hey, I've had fun doing this. I'm gonna ask if you like my videos, if you following me, I'm gonna invite you to hit thumbs up. I'm going to invite you to subscribe because subscribing is free. It don't cost you anything. Hey, and share the video. If you know somebody who can use the information, who need the information, hey, share the video. And guess what? Hey, I see you in the next video. Hey, and you take care. And once again, those of you who watching this on today, June 19th, again, I'm going to say, hey, happy Juneteenth and take care. And I'll see you on the next time. Peace.